Howdy, and welcome to LeeReads, where I talk about the books I've been reading and enjoying lately. This is my April reading wrap-up, which you already got a little bit of a sneak peek of when I did my Hugo novel nominations. In that video, I spoke of several of the Hugo Awards that I hadn't yet read that I was working on reading. Someone You Could Build a Nest In, which is a fantasy horror, and The Ministry of Time, which was a contemporary sci-fi thriller. I guess you could say sci-fi thriller relating to time travel. So if you want to hear a little bit more about my thoughts on those books, I will link that video. Someone You Can Build a Nest In is from the perspective of a monster who is being hunted, but also grappling with kind of reaching that point in their life where they're feeling the desire to lay their eggs in someone. They fall in love, or they are biologically compelled to really admire this person, and this person happens to be in the group of people that are trying to kill the monster. So it makes it a little bit complicated. You know, when can the monster tell them the truth about themselves, etc. It also deals a lot with abuse and the effects that that can have on the actions of the person who was abused, especially when it was at the hands of someone who is supposed to care for them. The Ministry of Time is a lot more of a sci-fi thriller. The main character works for the Ministry of Time that has discovered or invented time travel and is able to bring people back from the past. These expats, they call them, were going to die in their timeline. They're bringing them forward to the current day just to see what happens with their psyches and their bodies. Like, can they exist outside of their normal time in the current time? And once they know more about the impact of time travel, maybe they have plans to use it. The expat that our main character is living with and trying to teach about the present day was a commander in the British Navy back in the 1800s and was on one of the ill-fated Arctic expeditions where the ships got locked into the ice and everyone died. As the main character is trying to get this commander adapted to the present, she starts to think that there are some suspicious things going on with this project, and thus the thriller story from there. I didn't 100% love how this one ended, which kind of marks my feelings about it down a little bit, but overall I still think I enjoyed this one more than Someone You Could Build a Nest In, because I found myself more invested overall in the characters and really wanting to know what happens next, even though they're quite different stories though. As far as what I read that was unrelated to that project, I did finally read Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. This is one that has been on my list for a while. It was actually on my 24 books to read in 2024 list, and it's one that I didn't get to. The thing that finally inspired me to pick this up is because I heard two different people compare it in a vague sense to Mask of Mirrors. Mask of Mirrors and its trilogy, The Rook and the Rose, right here. It's another example of me having the book in my hands for a long, long time, not reading it, and then really loving it when I finally got to it, and then regretting not reading it sooner. So when I saw that that Swordcatcher was loosely compared to The Rook and the Rose, it really inspired me to get to it, especially because the next book in the series came out last month. The Swordcatcher follows several different characters, but the main character of this book is Kell, the Swordcatcher. He was an orphan who at a young age was brought in to live with the royal family of Castellane, which I think is loosely based on France. His job is to be the prince's bodyguard, but also be his body double in events that might be dangerous. You know, basically to take the sword, to die in the place of the prince. So he is very intimately raised with the prince, they're best friends, and then with some of the magic that's in this world, he's able to seamlessly sort of take his place. Another main character is Lynn. She is a healer in this world, a group of ostracized, sort of exiled people that live in a very contained quarter within this city. They're really not trusted. It has a lot to do with the history of this magic, but she is allowed and is a very well-regarded healer with this magic. And as the political events unfold in the story, these characters, including some others that we get perspectives from, meet. This is a fantasy-heavy story with some slight romantic elements in the side plots, so I would not call this romantasy at all. It's a really great blend of world-building fantasy, political intrigue. It really is reminiscent of Mask of Mirrors and The Rook and the Rose from that standpoint, because you have this royal family and like the legal goings on and ruling houses with their charters, and then also in the city you have undercurrents of the black market and the criminal kind of underlord that is a disruptor and also a supporter, just depending on what's going on. And then you also have this third group of people, Lynn's people, who are kind of thrown into this mix. I really enjoyed Swordcatcher, and in fact I already picked up the next book, The Rag Picker King. I think that similar to The Rook and the Rose, each book in this trilogy might focus on a different character, and so kind of knowing the title of the next book as I was reading the first book gave me some thoughts, and I'm eager to see where the series goes. Last month, I mentioned really kind of falling in love with the Veronica Speedwell series by Deanna Raybourn. It starts with A Curious Beginning. This series follows a lepidopterist or natural scientist named Veronica in Victorian England in the late 1800s, as she is embroiled in a sort of fight for her life. People are coming after her and she doesn't understand why. A friend of a friend essentially thrusts her into the warehouse of this taxidermist friend named Stoker and says, you owe me a favor, protect Veronica while I go out and try to get some information. So Stoker agrees to do that, and then that friend winds up dead. So Veronica and Stoker are now trying to figure out who killed their friend and why is someone trying to frame Stoker for it, so they need to prove him innocent, and also who are these people that are after Veronica and why. And it launches this wider series where they kind of end up solving mysteries together, but there are these overarching threads and story plots and their histories that are kind of connecting elements of the series. Last month I read book 1 and most of book 2. This month I finished book 2 and book 3, and I already have book 4 and 5 from the library. Also, if you have Audible, the first 4 books in the series were free. The audiobooks are free on Audible, which I think is great. So if you're interested in this series and you like audiobooks, then I would look there and get them for free. So this is a very fun mystery series set in Victorian England, with compelling characters that I think are funny. There's complex stuff going on, and it all doesn't go how you expect things are going to go. I'm really enjoying this series. Then last month, I read my copy of The Amber Owl by Juliet Marillier, which was published from a small publisher in Australia. So it took me a while to get it, and then I was kind of saving it for a weekend where I could curl up with it. This is a young adult fantasy, so I do have to preface that if you are a big Juliet Marillier fan, like I am, and have read most of her works, this is really actually YA on kind of the middle of that spectrum, not like adult-leaning YA. The world building, you could kind of tell things were a little bit more simplistic and easy for someone to grasp, and also the themes were a lot more transparent and very kind of hammered home. So this was a lot less of a subtle work than I've read from this author before. It tells the story of a young woman who has this bond with the forest that, might be considered a witch, but she kind of keeps what she can do secret except for her best friend. They live in this small town, and when soldiers from the ruler come to town and they start cutting down all the trees and disrupting the way of life, it seems like a very foolish quest, basically, and it's disrupting the lives of these villagers. Bad things start to happen. The main characters kind of wind up, in a sense, going to stop it. You really do feel for the characters and get invested in their journey. However, for me, just because this did lean on kind of a little bit of the younger side of the spectrum, I didn't connect with it as heavily as I do with many of the other books by her that I read. And those are the books that I read in April. It was a bit of a busy month. I was still trying to write. It was also my birthday month, so there was some travel visiting family. I'm really happy with what I was able to read this month, and next month we are continuing on the whole trying to balance reading and writing thing, so we'll see where we wind up. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and as always, don't forget to support your local library. Thanks.